Well, good morning. It's day 10 of our devotional series on the book of Zechariah. Zechariah 10 truly is a chapter of encouragement and restoration. And in this chapter, God contrasts himself with the false shepherds and empty idols that had misled the people. And this chapter reminds us that God alone is the true source of provision and guidance and strength and restoration. And the key thought as we make our way through chapter 10 is that when God's people return to him, he provides what they truly need, and he strengthens them for the future. So let's get into it. Verses 1 and 2, we'll start there. Ask the Lord for rain in the springtime. It is the Lord who sends the thunderstorms. He gives showers of rain to all people and plants of the field to everyone. The idols speak deceitfully. Diviners see visions that lie. They tell dreams that are false. They give comfort in vain. Therefore the people wander like sheep, oppressed for lack of a shepherd. Now the point, and of course we're going to use a few points as we do this chapter. The first one is, seek your blessing from the Lord, not empty substitutes. The main idea in these verses is that God calls his people to seek him rather than false sources of help. And the people had done that. They had listened to idols and false visions and deceptive voices. And those things offered promises, but they delivered disappointment. And God alone could provide the rain that they needed. And people still do look to false sources of security and fulfillment. Many seek satisfaction in money or success or power, prestige, entertainment, popularity, that's a big one, self-reliance. But only God can truly satisfy the deepest need of the heart. And there's an important lesson here, and that is that when we have needs, prayer should be our first resort, our first response. If we're not careful, we kind of make it our last resort. Well, nothing else worked, so let me try praying. Prayer should be our first response, not our last resort. And God desires his people to depend on him. And, James 1:17 says, every good thing given and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights. Second point, God is angry with false shepherds. Verse 3, my anger burns against the shepherds, and I will punish the leaders, for the Lord Almighty will care for his flock, the people of Judah, and make them like a proud horse in battle. So in verse 3, God rebukes leaders who failed to care for his people properly. They had neglected the flock, and they had used their position selfishly. and the people had suffered as a result. Obviously leadership carries responsibility before God, whether we lead, a church or a family or a ministry or a classroom or a workplace. God calls us to serve faithfully and sacrificially. Spiritual leadership should reflect the heart of Christ. True leadership serves rather than dominates. First Peter Chapter 5, verses 2 and 3, shepherd the flock of God among you, not yet as domineering over those assigned to your care, but by proving to be examples to the flock. So anyways, third point, let's keep going. God strengthens his people for the battle. Verse 3, again, and we're going to read a couple more verses this time. My anger burns against the shepherds, and I will punish the leaders, for the Lord Almighty will care for his flock, the people of Judah, and make them like a proud horse in battle. From Judah will come the cornerstone, verse 4 says. From him the tent peg, from him the battle bow, from him every ruler. Together they will be like warriors in battle, trampling their enemy into the mud of the streets. They will fight because the Lord is with them, and they will put the enemy horsemen to shame. And the main idea there in those verses is God promises to transform his people from a scattered flock into a victorious force. And God sees potential where anyone else would perhaps see weakness. The Lord does not abandon his people in their struggles. He equips them for the challenges ahead. And of course, many believers do feel at times inadequate or weary and discouraged and overwhelmed. But God delights in strengthening the weak. Isaiah 40 puts it this way, verse 31, yet those who wait for the Lord will gain new strength. All right, point number 4. Let's keep going. God restores those who have been scattered. Verse 6. I will strengthen Judah and save the tribes of Joseph. I will restore them because I have compassion on them. They will be as though I had not rejected them, for I am the Lord their God, and I will answer them. Verse 7. The Ephraimites will become like warriors, and their hearts will be glad as with wine. Their children will see it and be joyful. Their hearts will rejoice in the Lord. I will signal for them and gather them in. Surely I will redeem them. They will be as numerous as before. Though I scatter them among the peoples, yet in distant lands they will remember me, and they and their children will survive, and they will return. God promises to gather and restore his people here. The people had experienced exile and loss. God, though, had not forgotten them, and restoration was part of his plan. And this is not the first time we've heard this in the book of Zechariah. God specializes in bringing scattered things back together. He restores broken lives and wounded hearts and struggling families and discouraged believers. No one is beyond his reach. There was a farmer who noticed one sheep missing from the flock, and he searched the fields and the woods and the hillsides until he finally found it trapped in a ditch. The sheep could not rescue himself. The shepherd had to come for it. That's a picture of God's heart for his people. The gospel is a message of restoration. God still gathers people to himself today. Luke 19:10, for the Son of Man has come to seek and save that which was lost. Fifth and final point, God's presence gives courage for the future. Verse 10, I will bring them back from Egypt and gather them from Assyria. I will bring them to Gilead and Lebanon, and there will not be room enough for them. They will pass through the sea of trouble. The surging sea will be subdued, and all the depths of the Nile will dry up. Assyria's pride will be brought down, and Egypt's scepter will pass away. I will strengthen them in the Lord, and in his name they will live securely, declares the Lord. So the chapter closes with God promising to strengthen his people so they can walk confidently in his name. He didn't merely promise rescue. He promised ongoing strength, and their future security rested in him. Courage grows when we remember who walks with us. The future may contain uncertainty and challenges and unexpected turns, but God's presence remains constant. And faith is not confidence in ourselves. It's confidence in God's faithfulness. Like in the book of Joshua, chapter 1, be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. So Zechariah 10, teaches us that God alone is the true source of blessing. He cares deeply about leadership. He strengthens weak people. He restores the scattered. He gives courage for the future through his presence. And we should ask ourselves, am I looking to God first? Am I trusting his strength instead of my own? And is there any area of my life that needs God's restoring touch? And am I walking confidently in his presence? And we should pray before we panic and depend on God instead of substitutes. And trust him to restore what seems broken and walk forward in faith, knowing he's with you. God bless.